listeners, welcome back. It's Open World Chat. It's me, John Odom, and him, Mark Card. Mark, how you doing?
Hey everybody, how are you?
So I have to apologize to everyone today. I'm actually on vacation and I left my microphone. So I'm trying to do this just over the built-in mic on my laptop, which probably sounds terrible, but it is what it is. I'm going for it anyway. What the heck? Got to live dangerously sometimes, right?
Yep.
So we're going to talk about Cli-Fi today, climate science fiction, climate change science fiction. And no, we did not make up that term. Cli-Fi is in circulation and it's out there. And we were just talking just a little. Mark and I were just talking a little bit about it before we got started here and we started recording. And Mark, what was it you were just saying? It cracked me up and decided I better hit record.
It's a giant chaotic mess. This category includes disaster movies. It includes movies about astronomical events. It includes movies which are kind of climate related tangentially. So there's a lot of interesting things going on here. You can see how they're trying to differentiate between other science fiction movies and movies which primarily deal with climate. But I think there's a lot of work needs to be done here.
So yeah, let's just put that out on the table. Cli-fi, if you're going to take it at its face value, is going to be science fiction that is has something to do, either it's integral to the plot or it's just part of the plot somehow. Climate science, climate change particularly. You don't see climate being just a wonderful thing as part of these sci-fi stories. It's always climate change. It's always bad stuff, because without bad stuff, it's not a good story, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's some, we're going to talk about some movies today that I don't recommend at all, but but they talk about, and that's not because it's not accurate about climate or not accurate about, what kind of the effects of climate will be, but it's just because they're bad movies. Why don't
Yeah.
we just start with that one? Why don't we just start with a really bad one that makes a
Sure.
point about the possibility that we might see with climate change, but just doesn't execute it very well.
And you've got one in mind here that
I
you
do, I do.
genuinely think is Cli-Fi as
Yeah,
opposed to one of
yeah.
the dumb ones or the
No,
not.
well, it's dumb, but it's genuinely sci-fi.
Okay.
So it's the M. Night Shyamalan movie, The Happening.
The Happening, which, oh, well, isn't that the one with the plants?
Yes, with Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, I never saw that one because I heard it was
Oh, it's
plants.
bad. It's really bad. Um,
Yeah.
but uh, the interesting part of the movie, and it's I would call a movie which is tangentially climate involved, climate change movie. Um, and here's why it's tangentially involved. So, just a quick synopsis of the plot, and yes, a slight spoiler here. Well, it's actually a big spoiler. People start killing themselves out of the blue
Right, right.
for the old no apparent reason. And so, of course, a group of scientists try to understand why. And what they find is that and this is why it's tangentially climate related. What they find is that plants are suddenly emitting a toxin that gets into humans' brains and convinces them to kill themselves. Now,
And they
kind of the
got
implication.
together and planned this somehow, or is it just a spontaneous
Well, I
manifestation?
think it's the kind of thing that's just a climatic response to human presence.
Hmm.
So the implication is that plants are defending themselves from human interference now.
Hmm. And
So I think that's pretty interesting. It shows kind of a reaction in the natural world to the damage that humans are causing. So, in other words, humans are now being seen as parasites, and plants are fighting back.
Well, I'm going to say something then, not having seen it, having heard terrible things about it, having heard just sort of it seemed a little ludicrous on its face. But, the way you put that premise there is not so bad. Um,
No, but it's
which
the
makes me
execution of the
wonder, yeah,
movie.
I mean, yeah, maybe he bit off more than he could chew. I mean, he's only so talented, M. Night Shyamalan, and maybe to pull off making something like that not laughable in a cinematic context might have just be beyond him. And maybe it's beyond anybody. I don't know, because how do you make a movie where you have to, sneak by the ficus just in case it gasses you? I mean.
Well, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use that as a segue to talk about a movie I think is also tangentially involved, but does it really, really well. And so, if you don't mind, we can move on to that one too.
Oh, yeah, by all means.
So this movie was a cult movie. Not very many people saw it. It's now, though, considered one of the best science fiction movies ever made by some people. And it's a movie called Phase Four.
Hmm.
And Phase Four is kind of a science procedural movie involving two entomologists who study ants.
Hmm.
And they all of a sudden figure out that ants are organizing all over the planet in ways they never have before.
Was this a 70s movie?
Yes,
Okay, it's all coming back to me now. All right.
yes. And ants begin to show responses to human interference. Like in one scene, the humans do something to kind of threaten the ants. And the next day, the ants have built these towers that reflect sunlight onto the buildings the humans are occupied in this lab. So they're literally trying to cook the humans.
Hmm.
And while they never come out and say what prompted the rise in ant intelligence and the rise in ant anti-human behavior is specifically climate change, because really climate change wasn't in the kind of common vernacular of even scientists in 74 when this movie comes out.
No, not in
There are some scientists
74.
who are warning about it, and Exxon knew about it, a couple of years even before this movie was released. But the implication of the movie is that, again, nature is fighting back against human abuse of the natural world.
Mm.
But this one really pulls it off. And it's just a really interesting, really thought-provoking um, movie that went under the radar. And I had to do some hunting to be able to see it, but it's quite good. They do a very good job of ramping up the tension of when they first notice this to how things escalate to where it goes from there. So to its climax. But this is a really interesting movie. But this kind of illustrates, both of these movies kind of illustrate what I'm talking about when I say that this, attempt at creating a new genre is all over the place. You've
Hmm.
got two movies about natural reaction, but they never really talk that much about climate. I think part of M. Night Shyamalan's problem, when you mentioned this being beyond his capability, is he's always far too worried about the hook. You
Right.
know, he takes all this time trying to uh, work up to the hook and surprise everybody. So Shyamalan has kind of turned into almost a one-trick pony because of that.
Hmm.
And his movies end up, and I don't want to get too much when we talk about movie criticism here, but his movies have kind of ended up as a trope. build and build and build and build and build. And oh, at the last minute, you have this.
Right.
So people have come to expect that from him. And that's really what kind of he wants to do the most. But it's become part of this thing, which is just they're too predictable. Now, having said that, there are some other movies recently that he's done where he's kind of gotten back into his good groove. But um, this there's a lot of different kinds of movies in this. I'll give you two examples of one specific kind where uh, nature wants to get back at humans for their bad behavior, and one of them does it well, and one of them does it terribly.
Mhm.
And so I just think these two movies provide good bookends to what we're talking about.
Yeah. And you're making me think of a rather poor book from Frank Herbert called The Green Brain. Did you ever read that?
I have not read that book.
Yeah, don't bother too much. But it's about the bugs organizing and pushing and turning against humanity and a full-on war breaking out. Um, yeah, but it just sort of made me think of that. That too was before we heard the word, well, before we heard about global warming, which is what
Right.
we heard about first. And now, of course, we know it's all more complicated as climate change. I think I think these climate adjacent movies that you're talking about,
Yeah.
I think if you expand it to that, there's very few that are just focused on climate. You know, things like the day after tomorrow, which I wouldn't mind talking some about in a bit.
We can talk about that some, and
Yeah.
there's a particularly good reason to talk about that I'll mention if you don't.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention before we got to get though a good climate adjacent one is The Expanse. I've never read the books, but I'm a huge fan of the series.
That's
Um,
on my list. I haven't gotten there yet, but I know it's good.
Oh, for my money, the most of the first season is good, but that doesn't necessarily reach out and grab you. But if you can get through the first season, and it's easy to get through because, like I said, it's good, but you end up getting to what I think is the best science fiction TV series ever made.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
that
I've heard lots
good.
of people say that, which is why I will eventually get to
Yeah.
it.
But that's, Earth is a climate destroyed Earth. It's been destroyed through climate. You have extreme weather events and massive depletion of resources, and it's what's driven people largely off the planet and why they're
I,
trying to
I
terraform
think
Mars.
a lot of movies start with that premise. I mean, that's kind of hint, and here's the problem: they don't actually come out and say it; they just hint at it.
Mhm.
So a good example of that is Firefly.
Oh, right, because they all left when
They
it
all
was
left the
over.
Earth that was.
Yeah. Although
So,
I've always wondered if that isn't just sort of the soul of the ex exploration impulse of humanity doing that. But you know, it probably is. You're probably right. It is about leaving
and
down.
what's
Yeah.
interesting to me is if you compare this to the movies in the 50s and the 60s, they're talking about nuclear annihilation.
Hmm.
They're not talking about, industrial climate destruction.
Right.
And so what's happened kind of a little bit is that maybe this isn't a distinct kind of science fiction movie. Maybe it's just a different phase in that kind of uh, what could cause the destruction of humanity
Hmm. Yep. A different
movie.
flavor of that
It's just
catastrophic apocalyptic kind of
it's
movie we've
yeah, it's
talked
just a
about before.
different apocalypse.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so I think there's some movies like that here too, in that they're not really that different from other kinds of movies. And that gets back to something else I really see. Cinematically, there is this massive connection between two other genres of science fiction movie and Cli-Fi.
Hmm.
Um, one of them is uh, kaiju movies.
Uh-huh.
Because even as I said this, if you look at Godzilla, the original Godzilla from the 50s,
It's
what
nature
wakes
pushing back.
Godzilla up is nuclear testing.
Right. So it is nature pushing back in the same way.
So that's nuclear testing. And so
Mhm.
kaiju movies can be directly, I mean, they're a direct route, a direct source of that kind of uh, to Cli-Fi movies. And the other one besides kaiju movies is another thing that starts in the 70s largely, and that's disaster movies.
Right, right.
So those of you who aren't really old like we are, in the 70s, there was this kind of running series of big tentpole blockbuster movies about what happens when big systems in human society go wrong. And there's the towering of Inferno about a building which is really the tallest building in the world. And then, of course, you realize that, well, after 37 floors, they can't really get ladders up to people, and you're going to die if this seemingly incredible technological development catches on fire. Um, the other one is, of course, earthquake. What happens if there's a giant earthquake? What happens to society? Can technology pick up the pieces? The other one that's a notable one, and this is related to the Titanic disaster, is, of course, the Poseidon Adventure. So there was this series of movies in the 70s that kind of encapsulate the idea of what happens if these things, these institutions, these kind of technological developments, which we count on, are suddenly and irreversibly collapsed.
Hmm.
And I think those two kinds of movies play into the origin of Cli-Fi.
Which, yeah, and leads us right back around to the poster child for the modern disaster movies, Roland Emmerich. He of
Right.
Independence Day 2012 and the aforementioned The Day After Tomorrow, which is probably the most direct,
Yeah.
nothing else going on, strictly pure Cli-Fi movie that you could come up with. It got mixed results, mixed reviews. I actually enjoyed it a lot. I know it gets a lot of grief, but if I'm flipping by the TV and it's on, I'll stop for a minute and watch it. I had a good time watching it because partly um, the I like the weird little conceit it has. It creates this ludicrous situation of this flash ice age that just suddenly hits like a meteor hitting or something like that.
Right. Right.
And, it's ludicrous, but the pseudoscience they came up with to make it happen, I kind of love it. I have a great respect for it. This idea that the North Atlantic current shuts down, and you just shut down hard that warming effect through the ocean, that churning of the warm water up to the northern hemisphere that keeps that balance off, and suddenly you have that warming element turned off, like that heating element just turned off. And what happens is a massive immediate destabilization where the entire northern hemisphere then gets flash frozen, and that's your new climate. I think that's genius.
Well, in the previous episode, I said that's based on an Art Bell book, The Quickening, but I was wrong about that.
Oh.
It's based on a different book by Art Bell and Whitley Strieber called The Coming Global Superstorm.
Mm.
And there's a little bit of a conservative political pushback with this movie in that it's not global warming which creates climate change, but rather a massive, huge, inescapable ice age.
Hmm.
And so there's a bit of a political thing going on here. And so Art Bell was not only a psycho, he was kind of out there on the extreme end of conservative politics. He always was able to hide it pretty well, but he was not he was not as good at hiding it as he thought he was.
That's funny.
But that's really the basis for this movie. And it is a little bit of, as I said, a conservative pushback on the idea that climate change is man-made. It doesn't really talk about how that sudden reversal or the sudden ending of the Atlantic currents happens, but
Right. Well, the
Uh,
movie, of course, it's right in your face.
yeah.
The movie is this is climate change. This is the melting of Greenland and fresh water
Mhm.
pumping into the Atlantic, which upsets the balance, the salinity balance. That's the
Sure,
word,
sure.
right? And so the whole thing collapses. So in the movie, I mean, there's like full on preaching going on. It's
Yeah.
not exactly subtle.
Well, yeah. So there's a lot of really kind of there's a lot of diversity in this category, and I think I'm beginning to come up with the conclusion that it's not really a separate category.
Hmm.
I'm thinking more it's just an extension or a combination of all these other kinds of movies, kaiju movies, disaster movies, but climate change becomes the source. Let's see.
I have a
There's
different one for you
yeah, 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 yeah.
that might break out of that mold a little bit, and it's a movie nobody saw but me. It was a Charlie Sheen movie called The Arrival from
I
the
love that movie.
Oh, you
I saw
saw it.
that. Yes, I have seen that movie. I love that movie.
I enjoyed it a lot too. And in that one, it's different still. You've got aliens who are infiltrating humanity, and they are intentionally working to fuel climate change to make the environment match theirs so that they can move in and colonize.
They're terraforming.
They're terraforming.
Well, I have an even earlier movie, which is it starts out with the same convention. And this one just occurred to me. It's a David Bowie movie, The Man Who Fell to Earth.
Oh God, I haven't seen it. I feel terrible having to say that I have not seen that movie.
Well,
It's
you know where I
it's
saw this movie?
shameful. You probably saw it in Lexington, Kentucky, the Kentucky Theater, didn't
You
you?
bet I did.
Yeah, yeah.
Where I saw a lot of these movies that nobody else had seen. So the interesting thing to me about that is the two take a completely different turn. Uh, so Bowie arrives on Earth as an alien, and he wants to take all the water from Earth because their planet's already out of water.
Mm.
And so he uses this alien technology to become unspeakably rich to try and kind of prepare for the invasion. But what happens to him in the meantime? He completely succumbs to the excess and hedonism which comes from extreme wealth and basically ends up killing himself with his lifestyle.
Huh.
So what we're seeing here is kind of maybe it is a category on its own, but I'm not convinced of that yet. But what I think we're seeing is a synthesis of many different approaches to apocalyptic movies. But I really like The Arrival because it's kind of a slow burn movie,
Hmm.
and it's it's a lot more clever than you think the average Charlie Sheen movie would be.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Of course, that doesn't have anything to do with him, uh, directly. That's the script and the director. But
Well,
these are
it does
really,
give us two, I think, pure examples. These are Cli-Fi movies. These are not
yeah,
Cli-Fi adjacent. The Arrival and The Day After Tomorrow. So we've got two that are, that's the heart of what the story is about, I think.
yeah. I agree. I agree. Oh, I just thought of another one that I had that of course is related to this. Yes. Now this one kind of combines astronomical events with climate change, and it's the Netflix series The Three Body Problem.
Which also I haven't seen. You keep telling me I have to see it, and I haven't seen it. I keep telling you I'm going to, and I will eventually.
Well, we all only have so much time.
Hmm.
But so in that particular instance, uh, aliens, a Chinese lady who's a victim of the Cultural Revolution, she has to, um, yeah, this is definitely going to be spoilery. My explanation of this is going to give away the whole thing. So if you want to see the 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 three body problem. They're going to do a season two, which is coming fairly soon, I think. But let's just put it in the broadest possible terms. Astronomical conditions on a planet which somebody contacts from Earth are such that uh, it occasionally it will create a climate condition which is so catastrophic that the evolutionary process of the beings on this planet allow them to dehydrate for long periods of time because the sunlight is so strong. And then when the astronomical conditions change, they can rehydrate.
Hmm.
But the effects of this particular astronomical problem are so severe that they have to flee their planet. So I think this is really climate change direct.
Yeah.
Um, it's kind of buried a little bit in the themes of the movie. The themes of the movie are very technologically oriented. It's very you have to have a working knowledge of some physical, some physics principles here. They do a pretty good job of explaining them, uh, but it's definitely climate change involved. And again, it's alien invasion climate change.
Hmm.
So climate, it's interesting. A lot of these earlier movies in the 70s begin to show what the kind of effects of a disastrous climate would be without necessarily making the direct connection to that.
Right.
And I think that's because people didn't realize as early as scientists did that this is a problem and that this actually a physical thing happening right now.
Yeah, and I would suggest, I mean, people didn't make this sort of connection front and center, I would say, until the 90s. And a movie that I think predated The Arrival by a couple years. I'm sure it did. Back in the middle 90s, love it or hate it, I think it deserves full credit for possibly being the first, certainly the first big Hollywood movie, but to make climate change front and center is Waterworld with Kevin
Yes,
Costner.
definitely. That's one of those that's really that is climate change. That's a direct climate change movie.
It is absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it doesn't deserve the grief it got, in my opinion. I mean, it's like legendarily bad and a legendary flop. It doesn't know where to go,
Yeah.
and the ending is very unsatisfying and doesn't really make a lot of sense. A lot of it doesn't make a lot of sense, but as a cinematic experience, I mean, those first 10 minutes is the best Mad Max knockoff you're ever going to see.
Well,
Just on
and
surfboards.
I think Mad Max deserves credit as one of the early climate change movies because although it's very indirect, that they kind of hint at some kind of apocalypse. I'm pretty sure it's climate as a result of nuclear exchange.
It's got to be something. I think they definitely allude to nuclear and then we've had this conversation. I think by the
Yeah,
third movie, you definitely get allusions to nuclear. I think the intro to the Road Warrior, they talk about basically the Earth running out of gas and its resource depletion.
right.
And then Fury Road, would seem to be more directly climate. So it's funny, the series is tracks the different sort of points of sensitivity of apocalypses. It sort of goes through the whole list over the course of the series.
Yeah. Um, so I want to talk about another one, another couple of them, I think, which are directly related to climate change. One of them more than the other, but the 70s movie Silent Running.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot about Silent Running. Completely
You know,
forgot about
Silent
it.
Running, the opening premise is that there is no vegetation left on Earth. Now, it
Mhm.
doesn't say that it's uninhabitable. It
Right.
just says it just says that all of these things are they just don't exist on Earth anymore. It's all been, It's all been artificially kind of, it's replaced by artificial items. And
Right.
so they're preserving all the plants and animals on these 6 drone ships outside Saturn.
Hmm.
And one day Bruce Dern gets the order to destroy them all, and he's like, "I'm not doing that."
Right.
But the point here is that the biological diversity, both in flora and fauna, have disappeared from Earth, and they
Hmm.
only exist in a lab. And it's not, I mean, and that's directly related to human development of technology, I think. And
Yeah,
I,
which is why that movie really needs to be remade
yeah,
because, it comes from more of the, they pave paradise, put up a parking lot kind of fear of human expansion. And it's just a
it's,
step away from actual carbon in the atmosphere, climate change. And you could make that movie now and make it even more effective.
which reminds me of something very interesting. So the first Earth Day, I think, was in 71.
Hmm.
I used to teach at San Jose State University, and it's kind of funny what they did in 1971 to commemorate the first Earth Day. They buried a car on campus.
I
Now, did they
think I've
drain
heard
all the
that.
fluid? Did they drain all the fluids out of the car? No.
So they made
So,
it. They made a brown field for Earth
yeah,
Day.
they made essentially a toxic waste site on campus to celebrate Earth Day. But that's the whole point. The whole point here is that our understanding of how ecology works and how human intervention in nature has consequences on the climate is a process, and that process and that understanding of the science and its impact on our culture is every bit as kind of slow and subtle as anything else that comes into the culture.
Mhm.
But yeah, so silent runnings, I think, is a really good example of that. It doesn't really come out and say that it's global warming. It's just that human technology and human quote progress unquote has destroyed a natural element of the world.
Mhm.
And it doesn't quite go far enough to say, well, that's the end of life on the planet. It just says we don't have any more plants and animals.
Yeah. Isn't it
Uh,
interesting how this genre is, I mean, with the exception of The Arrival, just to, invoke that yet again, these are not movies about stopping it. They are movies about it's happened and we have to deal with it. Interstellar,
yes.
they're leaving. They're trying to find a new place.
Yeah, we screwed
Um,
up. We didn't do enough at the beginning to stop it.
right. And Waterworld, Expanse, these other things we've mentioned, the same way. There's a real fatalism, a real defeatism in general to this whole genre, a sense of the damage is done or the damage is inevitable. And that says something. Not entirely sure what, other than just the sense of gloom, But
Well,
I think it speaks to the idea that no one sees a way to avoid this that is credible. And
yeah,
that's sad.
I want to come back to this theme because I want to talk about, so remind me about this. But I wanted to talk about another movie which I think is related to silent running,
Mhm.
and that's Wall-E.
Yeah, that comes up. It did some searches, and that comes up. That's I guess more about the trashing of the earth, which probably puts it closer to silent running, but it's still it's still part of the family, right?
Yeah, well, obviously, this goes back again to the human factor in climate change.
Hmm.
And that is humans are casually going on doing what they want to do, whenever they want to do it, however they want to do it, without any concern for what this activity does to maintain Earth as a habitable place. And I think in that regard, it's related to all of the pushback against the real science that climate change is coming, and that if we want to do anything about it, we need to do it very, very, very quickly.
Mhm.
And so people just they didn't notice the trash was piling up and piling up and piling up. And then now there's no room for plants. And if there's no room for plants, there's no food. And if there's no food, you have to leave.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of these movies, so what I think is interesting is a lot of these movies, even the ones that hint at climate change before it becomes an important idea in the universe, uh, they assume that people are not going to pay attention until it's too late.
Yeah.
And that actually brings me back to another one, which I don't think is a climate change movie. It
Okay.
appears on all the lists, but I have to push back on this. I don't think it is. And that's the Netflix movie, Don't Look Up.
Oh, I've seen that on list too. It's not a climate change movie. They're saying it's, I mean, well, it is an analogy for climate change.
Yeah, no, I understand it, but
Yeah.
it's not a direct climate change movie.
No,
And
it's
the
not.
analogy that it is for climate change is that we know this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And instead of trying to solve the problem, they look for any other reason to not solve the problem. There are a whole bunch of people that push back in this movie and say, oh no, that thing that's burning in the sky that gets closer and closer and closer to everything, it's not happening. The scientists are wrong. This is not going on.
Yeah.
And then we talk about, well, we know it's going to happen, but people are starting a cult. And we know it's going to happen, but nobody's really making any plans to escape the earth. And
Yeah. It
then,
even gets commodified when you have like
yeah,
Kid Cudi and Ariana Grande. I think those are the ones who are in it. Making their song, and we have the drama between them, and um,
yeah. And so a lot of this, a lot of these movies basically talk about human stupidity
yeah.
and human inability to grasp reality, even with evidence in your face. I mean, in this movie, you've got a burning rock heading toward you, and you can see it,
Hmm.
but then, by then it's too late. So you're right. There's a little bit of fatalism here going on,
Yeah.
and there's a little bit of comment about the fundamental nature of humanity.
There is, and you juxtapose that against, we've talked about utopian fiction, which um, you know, sees more, the greater potential in humanity. But even the futuristic utopian fiction, like Star Trek,
Yeah.
assumes disasters of one kind or another between
Yes.
now and when we get to utopia. So even that stuff says, and it's not climate in that case, it's war, but still, we're this here, us now, it always looks pretty bad. And doesn't nobody really sees a way around it in so much of this fiction. They just sort of give into it.
Well, either that or what happens is it's the catalyst for this kind of thing.
Hmm.
It's the catalyst for trying to figure out how to solve inequality and racism and sexism and food security.
Right.
Um, and so basically kind of all most of these movies reinforce the very, very old idea that humans are stupid and won't do anything until it's absolutely necessary. And then it may be too late.
We need that common threat to draw together. The psychic squid dropped on New York. That's what we need.
Galactus.
Galactus. There you go. Perfect.
But see, the crazy thing about this is that is the we already know this is happening. That is the, excuse me, global warming should be the thing that catalyzes us,
Yeah.
should be the thing that's bringing everybody together. What is it? Is that happening?
No.
No. And a lot of that's because of scientific illiteracy.
Yeah. And good old-fashioned stupidity. Isn't this two episodes in a row where I keep coming back to stupidity?
Well, it's pretty hard to fight in human arrangement in human society. Um, let's see. I've got another earlier one,
Uh-huh.
and it combines pandemic and climate change. I want to look and see when it came out. 1970,
Pandemic and climate change. Pandemic makes me think of you're going
British
for
movie.
Andromeda Strain or something, but it's not that. Pandemic and climate change. I'm
This is a very obscure movie.
drawing a blank.
No Blade of Grass.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of it. I don't know it though.
No Blade of Grass is a 1970 movie where a virus kills all the grasses.
Hmm.
Well, if you're killing all the grasses, you're killing all the wheat and barley and all of the grains that we use.
Right,
And essentially, what happens is uh, more and more and more, it becomes apparent that everyone on Earth is going to starve to death.
right,
And so, this is a direct kind of it's early, it's 1970 before even Exxon knew global warming was happening and covered it up. Um, but it's this connection to what happens when a large environmental disaster occurs and what we do to try and solve that problem.
right. Hmm.
Let's see, what else have we got? I think another example of this, and it's kind of indirect, but it definitely applies, is one that we kind of, I'm surprised we haven't, neither one of us has brought up yet, and that's Avatar.
Avatar. Yeah. That definitely gets on the list. It doesn't strike me as direct as,
No, it's definitely not
but
direct. It's
mhm,
more a metaphor again for global warming in that you have this thing, uh, unobtainium, and it's a natural substance which occurs on this planet, and it's the human pursuit of technology which ruins this uh, nature driven humans exist in perfect harmony kind of utopia.
mhm. It's also the
And
most explicitly anti-colonial science fiction you'll ever see. So that's
yeah, it's very anti-colonial. But uh, it's not the first one. Fern Gully.
right. I know I always think of that.
And then the other one, of course, is but which predated Avatar is, of course, a Dances with Wolves.
Yeah. Well, that's much the same story too.
Yeah,
Um,
it's all the same story, which kind of lends credence to my criticism of James Cameron, all about technology, not so much about original storytelling.
yeah, yeah. And not exactly very deep storytelling either.
Oh no, 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 very
But
kind of
but very accessible
yeah,
in
no,
a
no,
good
I
way.
agree, I agree,
Yeah.
but it's draping a story over the robot underneath.
Sort of like Terminator, you mean?
Yeah, the robot being that was exactly what I was thinking when I
Oh,
said
okay. You were going for
the
that.
robot being the technology. The important part here is not the skin and hair you put on the robot, but the guts of the robot. And I think
Mm,
that's really going to be what Cameron is really known for. They're
mm,
not going to talk about how his films were great. They're going to talk about how he used technology to make films.
mm.
And I just wish they would stop beating the Avatar horse.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, I
dead
agree.
already.
It's dead already.
It's dead.
Let it lie in peace. But
Find another, natural event to use as a skin for your robot.
yeah. Yeah. So another one worth mentioning is Snowpiercer.
Yeah,
Snowpiercer is not that's not what it's about, but that's what created the setting.
right.
That there was an attempt actually to counter. Boy, it's been a while since I've looked at this. But to I haven't seen the series either, but countering climate change creates a counter disaster with the Earth freezing over, and then you've got this sort of nonsensical plot device of everybody going around the world in a train and whatever. But it d despite the nonsensical quality of it, it's actually pretty good. I don't think it's the movie is. I haven't read the original. I don't think it was as good as everybody made it out to be, but I think it was pretty good. And did you ever see the series?
No.
Yeah, me either.
No,
It was
I
good.
can't really comment on much on this one because I haven't seen it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the movie is all I can speak of. I guess it was a comic first, and I'm not familiar with it. Um, but the movie was Chris Evans was our hero, and very, very an in your face commentary on class divisions and
Right.
class
Right.
politics. Like so in your face, it's almost a little insulting.
Well,
Um,
the original movie is Korean,
yeah.
and that class division is built into the language in Korea. So, you know how in Spanish, if you've got you can say tu as a familiar form of you, and usted as a formal, or the same in French, where you've got tu as a formal and vous as I mean, if the other way around, tu as informal and vous as in a formal kind of way to deal with people. In Korea, there are four levels of that.
Interesting.
And so the idea of class divisions is baked into, and I think many people have seen the Korean and the other movie, but yeah, this is definitely a thing. But this actually, now that I think about it, this actually does tap into that classism does tap into global warming and environmental problems because we know for a fact that not only does the industrialization of Earth, which is one of the main causes of, or arguably the main cause of global warming, different classes are affected by both the industrialization process and the climate change, which is going on now. Poor people get hurt more by industrialization, and poor people get hurt more by the climate change effects of industrialization. So
Absolutely.
those two should be directly tied.
A term you used to hear a lot and you don't as much now, although it's coming back too, is environmental racism,
Yes,
where when industrial
absolutely.
hitting, yeah, communities of color harder,
And it's
poor
not
communities
just
of color.
that. It's also that the solutions to these problems are being applied with inequity.
Right.
That the people who benefit from the race to fix climate change are the ones who get hurt the most by the attempted fixes as well. And
Mhm.
that if you look at that, I mean, just look at it this way. Um, there's a lot of movement to force countries which are industrializing to up their green footprint. But that implies they don't have a right to industrialize like all the other powers which have already done it.
Right.
And so, yeah, there's this whole thing about environmental racism and both the industrialization and the global and the climate change solutions affecting the poor the most. I think I haven't seen the movie, but it seems like that's a natural connection.
Yeah. It is. It is a natural connection and it fits in very easily, very cleanly. And it's yeah, the American movie anyway, it's worth checking out.
The last one I want to talk about for me is an obvious one that we should have talked about right off the get-go, but it's not fictional. It's a documentary.
Oh, you're going to talk about you're going to bring in Mr. Gore into the
I am going to bring
conversation?
in Mr. Gore because Mr. Gore was right. An inconvenient truth. Now, the reason why I think this needs to be included, it's not fiction, it's not Cli-Fi, but I'll tell you what, there's a whole lot of people who took it to be fiction.
Yeah.
And I really do think that that's part of the reason why they are pushing back so damn hard now against climate change, is because Al Gore came out with this movie that said, yeah, you guys are idiots.
Mm,
Science here is absolutely ironclad. This is happening and we're doing it. And if this movie hadn't been such a giant splash, I don't think conservative politicians across the world would be so um, how do I put it, so sharp in their response. I
Mhm.
think in some ways this movie kind of uh, went a pretty good distance to uh, polarize, at least in America, the consensus we need to solve the problem.
Well, and I think a lot of that's it was an extraordinarily successful corporate pushback. And I think it came from corporate more than pure political. I think political, as so often was the case, was following corporate leadership here. But you couldn't fight the science. You couldn't fight the math. So what did they do? They went after Al Gore personally and they
Yeah.
trivialized him and they made him into a punchline. And it was incredibly successful. It was nauseatingly successful. And, the result is they threw the conversation off the rails, delayed a serious conversation until things were much worse. But it was something to behold.
Yeah.
Bad stuff.
So
Corporations.
yeah, I mean
It's down to
it's
them
been
so much.
been really tough.
Yeah.
And I do think hitting these people in the face so hard like this caused a reaction. And um, this cooperation between corporations that want to hold on to their money and politicians who want to hold on to their power has made it more difficult.
Well, I want to hold on to the money they get from the corporations who want to hold on to their money.
Well, yeah, but the money is only important to them because of the power it brings them.
Yeah, it's interesting and some might argue that those things cannot be differentiated cleanly. But well,
Oh, I think if you have power, money accumulates to you. If you
mhm.
have money, it's not necessarily true that power accumulates to you.
See, I'm going to disagree with you on that. I think with
I
money
think it
comes power.
can. I don't think it
Mhm.
automatically follows.
Yeah, I think they are one and the same currency, more or less. Not at the quantum level, not at the small level with, regular people, but once you get to a sort of macro level, I think they become indistinguishable. I am, but that's me.
I would have to say, well, I don't know. I think uh, after a small amount of time, I mean, up to a certain point, power is only good if it's fungible, and money is always fungible.
Hmm.
But power is not always fungible.
Uh, well, I don't know about that. I think we have a fundamental disagreement here because I would disagree on that too, which makes sense since I disagreed with you before. So,
Well, no, all that means is that you're logically consistent.
all right,
That just means
exactly.
your internal logic is consistent.
Well, I think we've done something today that we've never actually done before.
What's that?
I think we have finished a conversation in less than an hour.
Oh my God. No, we've done it before.
Have we?
I went back and looked at times before that, and we have several where it's 40, 44, 48 minutes. So,
No, it's been a while though.
oh, now it has.
But I think we've done it. I think um, we've gone
Well,
about as far as we can with Cli-Fi. We've moved on beyond Cli-Fi, and that's because, as you said at the very beginning, this might not be a real topic unto itself.
I don't think it's a genre. I really don't.
Hmm.
I think they're trying to make it a genre to make it more relevant, but I don't think it's a genre. I think it's a topic that's used. I'm sorry. I think it's a subject that can be used to make any number of science fiction genre movies.
Well, there you go. And I think we've proven your thesis here. So before we
Well,
go,
to
apologies once again for my terrible sound. If you missed the beginning, I did forget to bring my microphone on my little vacation, so I'm just talking to my laptop and it sucks. But what are you going to do, right? But
oh,
that
it really doesn't sound that
notwithstanding,
bad.
oh, that's good. All right. That notwithstanding, I still think it's been a pretty good conversation.
Yes, especially given the level of preparation I made for it.
Yeah, me too.
Well, and I think part of the thing is it's hard to do a focused preparation on this because we started with the assumption that this is an actual genre of science fiction, that this is an actual subset of science fiction. I don't think it is. And I think that's the reason why we had trouble dealing with it.
Yeah, it's young. Let's put it that way. We found a few that were pure Cli-Fi. You could not even, like three. So maybe it's just young. We'll check back on this topic in 10 years and see where we're at.
If the planet survives,
If the planet survives.
if we don't have a day after tomorrow event.
Exactly. All right. Well, thanks for listening, folks. This is, as always, it's a
Yes.
blast.
Thank you. Bye.
Our theme music is by Christopher Piatek.